Okay, we're going to be looking at solving nonlinear simultaneous equations in this video. This combines the ideas from substitution method and solving quadratics by factorization. So could you write down the definition for nonlinear? Now, nonlinear equations, they'll tend to involve powers. And at GCSE in this subject, we're really going to be involving quadratics, so things with square powers. So like x squareds and y squareds. We won't go much above that. Okay, and carrying on, solving, we looked at in the last video, it's to find values for x and y. Now I've said values because in this, when we had simultaneous equations, we just had one value for x and one value for y. When we've got nonlinear simultaneous equations, we'll tend to have two values for x and two values for y. Okay, let's start with an example. So we've got this example, y is x squared and y is equal to 3x plus 10. Okay, so we've got these two equations then, equation 1 and equation 2. They should be labelled on your sheet. Now the first thing to do is pause the video and maybe try using the substitution method just to write an equation which only involves x's. So try that now. Try a substitution that only involves x's. Okay? So the substitution you might look at is, well, we know y is x squared, and we've got y in the second equation there. So we can just replace y with x squared. So I could rewrite this equation as x squared is equal to 3x plus 10. And that uses the same idea from the substitution method the other day. And now we've got this quadratic that we can solve by factorising. So if you could write this equation down, x squared equals 3x plus 10, pause the video and try and solve the quadratic. Okay, having tried to solve the quadratic, this is what you might do. You might get all the x's onto one side, and you have to, in a quadratic, make it equal to 0. So we can say x squared minus 3x minus 10 is 0. Now we're solving a quadratic, so we need to factorise it into two brackets. We need two numbers. We need two numbers that multiply to make minus 10, and that add to make minus 3. These numbers are minus 5 and 2, because minus 5 times 2 is minus 10, and minus 5 plus 2 is minus 3. So we could rewrite our quadratic in its factorised form. X minus 5 times by x plus 2. Since this is 0, we can say that x minus 5 is 0, or x plus 2 is 0. That would mean that x is 5, or x is minus 2. Okay, they're the two solutions for x. So we've got two values for x now, as I said. So what we're going to do is find the values for y. Now you would plug each one of these x values into one of the equations. So I'm going to put them into equation 1. So I know that y is x squared, so that means y is 5 squared, which is 25, and for the other one, y is minus 2 squared is 4. Okay. So the solutions are x is 5, y is 25. I could write it as a coordinate, or x is minus 2, y is 4. So check that you're happy with how this solution went. We started with simultaneous equations, we used the substitution method, we had a quadratic, we factorised the quadratic, we solved the quadratic, and then we substituted those x values back into one of the original equations to find the y values. So turn your page over and look at example 2. We've got this, we've got 2x plus y is 1, and x squared plus y squared is 1. Okay? So you might want, is equal to 13. You might want to pause the video and just try and get an equation only involving x. So an equation only involving x. And you're going to use the substitution. First though, if you're stuck, the clue might be you're going to rearrange equation 1. I could rearrange equation 1 to be y is equal to 1 minus 2x. I could rearrange equation 1 to be that. Now you might think, I can use a substitution. Yeah, well, we know y is 1 minus 2x. So I could replace y in this new equation by y in equation 2. So I could rewrite equation 2 as x squared plus brackets 1 minus 2x squared equals 13, because y is 1 minus 2x. So instead of writing y squared, I write 1 minus 2x squared. Okay, now that we've got this equation, you might want to pause the video and try to solve it yourself. Solve this equation. Okay. The first thing you might do would be to expand the bracket. So I'd write that x squared again. Now to expand the bracket, I would write two brackets. It's 1 minus x times 1 minus 2x times 1 minus 2x. Okay? And we know how to expand brackets like this. We're going to do 1 times by 1 minus 2x minus 2x times by 1 minus 2x. Check that you're happy with that. I've done, what have I done? I've done the 1 times by the 1 minus 2x and the minus 2x times by the 1 minus 2x. Expanding each of these brackets, I'm left with 1 minus 2x and then minus 2x plus 4x squared is equal to 13. Okay? That's how I expanded those brackets. Okay? Right. So we can combine like terms now. So how many x squareds do I have? I've got 5 of them. How many x's do I have? I've got minus 4 x's. And then I've got that plus 1 is equal to 13. So if you didn't get this far, then maybe pause the video now and try and solve this one. Carrying on, we have 5x squared minus 4x minus 12 is equal to 0, because we always want quadratics equal to 0. It helps us to solve them. We can factorise, but now notice we've got that coefficient, we've got that 5 coefficient, so that changes things. So you do, instead of having numbers that multiply to make minus 12, what you want is things that multiply to make minus 60 from that 5 times by that minus 12. And they have to add to make minus 4. Things that multiply to make 60 and add to make minus 4, well, that's minus 10 times by 6 and minus 10 plus 6. Okay? So if you remember, if you're new to this, then you might want to go back and look at solving quadratics by factorising. So I can split that minus 4x into minus 10x plus 6x. Okay, now if you remember, to factorise this, I factorise the part I've put a little squiggle under. So I take out a factor of 5x, giving me 5x brackets x minus 2 for those two terms. And for these two terms, I can write plus 6 brackets x minus 2. Notice how I've got an x minus 2 on both terms, so I can factorise that out. So I can say it's 5x plus 6 brackets x minus 2 equals 0. Okay? Now we've got two things multiplied together to make 0, so I can say that 5x plus 6 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. That means that 5x is minus 6, which means x is minus 6 over 5, or x is 2. Now that I've got these x values, you could pause the video and try substituting them into one of the first equations to find out y. If you do that, I'm going to use equation 3 here. I'm going to say, well, y is equal to 1 minus 2x, which is 1 minus 2 times minus 6 over 5, which ends up being, sorry, I'll go back a bit, which ends up being 17 over 5 when you finish it off. When you put 2 into the equation, you get 1 minus 2 times 2, which is 1 minus 4, so y is minus 3. So the solutions will be x is minus 6 over 5 and y is 17 over 5. And the other solution will be x is 2 and y is minus 3. Now this is as difficult as it gets. This uses the most difficult factorising you could do. In general, we'll hopefully just have questions involving the simpler factorisation in that first column there. So this second question is much more challenging. So check to see if you understand all the steps, and if you don't, you might want to go back and look at solving quadratics by factorisation.